actually meant to come out in October next month.
30th of October to be precise.
30th of October.
But it's available for pre-order.
Order. All right.
On the Wenica Editions website.
Okay, you heard that. So, but you are very privileged to have a copy here because you can see the copies I'm holding them up. Because we're in England, it is £13 to get a copy. If you want to get your copy. And we also have the author in our midst, so she will autograph it for you and you can sell it on, maybe, for £500 after today. Alright. Okay. Thank you for being patient to be with us here and online. Next, we're going to call on a very good friend of mine who just walked in at the nick of time before we went on break. I'm going to call on Dr. Bunmi Oyinsan, who has a little presentation titled A Folkish Tale and Provocation. By the way, Bunmi is a performing poet and a fantastic dancer. She has a body of work to illustrate her profession. She's down to an African lady, and I'm sure by the time I give her the mics, she's going to let you know more. Please, Bunmi, could you join us here? A round of applause, everybody.
Good to see you again.
If we last saw each other probably
30 years ago.
30 years ago.
That tells us your age.
I'm beginning to give up hiding. My age is okay. Good afternoon. I call it a folkish tale because I made the tale up. So it's not a folk tale. It's not a folk tale that existed, in time immemorial. It's something I created, and it is to make a point. And so we're talking about stories and telling our own stories.
Yes.
And so this folk tale has that idea behind it. When we're telling our own stories, what are we telling? So this folk tale is called, this folkish tale is called, Why the Weaver Bird Makes Elaborate Nests. So a long time ago, the weaver bird lived with her 3 daughters, and she was a very prosperous farmer. She had lands, but she was also a very talented basket weaver. She made baskets, elaborate baskets, using leaves of different colors. They were very beautiful. And she combined her love of basketry with farming. She took the seeds to the farm in her baskets to spread. And when it was harvest time, she would bring her baskets to gather the harvest. And then she and her 3 daughters will carry the seed home elegantly. Time passes, and the 3 young daughters grew up and became very beautiful women. And they got married and went to their husbands' houses. But before they went, the mother gave each one a beautiful set of baskets so that they could continue the honorable profession of farming. One set of baskets to each daughter. After many months of living alone, she decided that she wanted to see her daughters. So she got up and went to go and see the eldest one. And when she arrived, her daughter came dancing out and playing.
Can you face her?
The mother sat in the house and said, "How is the farming going? How are you using the baskets I gave you.
If I leave it and you
Mama, you know, this side of the country is swampy, unlike the outside of the country where the land is dry. So I've stopped taking baskets to the farm. We are now using plastic to carry the seeds and bring it back. And it's so much better. So where are the baskets? Said Mama Weaver. I use them to store things in the cupboard. Mama Weaver wasn't particularly happy about that, but she accepted it. She enjoyed her time with her daughter, and she went back home. A few weeks later, she decided to go and see daughter number 2. And she arrived, and her daughter came dancing out to meet her. They sat in the house, and she said, "So, how are you using the baskets I gave you?" And she goes, "Mama, I sold the baskets." "You sold the baskets? Why?" "Well, I was going through the village one day with my baskets, and a man came up to me and said, 'Look at those baskets. We wear hats this shape in my country.' 'You wear hats in this shape?' 'Yes. We wear hats exactly this shape. Of course, they're not made of this kind of raffia material, but they're exactly this shape. I'd like to buy these baskets off you and wear them.' 'Really? You'd like to wear these baskets?' 'Yes. From where I come from, people will just think I've got hats in a new type of material. They will think I'm very trendy.' 'Okay.' So I sold him the baskets. He was prepared to pay me a huge amount of money for them. So we made the exchange, and there you are. Mama Weaver was horrified. But, the daughter explained that she had invested the money, and more things were coming into her life as a result. So she thought, well, I gave you the baskets, you're using the baskets, and there you go. So, Mama Weaver enjoyed her time with her daughter and went back home. Not long hence, she decided to go and see daughter number 3. Here she came, dancing towards her daughter dancing towards her. They sat in the house, and Mother Weaver looked up, and there she saw the duck baskets displayed on the walls. "Is this what you're doing with the basket?" said Mama Weaver. "Yes. The baskets are so beautiful, we decided to turn them into decorations. You see, my husband's not a farmer. I don't go to the market, so we had no use for the baskets in terms of work. But they're so pretty, we decided to put them on the walls, and all our visitors compliment us." Mama Weaver thought that was particularly strange, but there you go, for my listening. And so, she enjoyed her time with the daughter, and then she went back home. So after visiting the 3 daughters, Mama Weaver was concerned that the tradition of making baskets was going to die out. Her 3 daughters were using the baskets in very strange ways, and she wanted the people in the village to understand the importance of this basket-making tradition. And so she came up with a great idea. Why not make the nests in which they put their young in the form of a basket? And she started to weave these elaborate nests using her skills as a basket maker. And she introduced this skill to other women in the village. And soon, all the younger women started to weave basket nests for their young. And when the little weaver birds were born, the eggs were placed in the basket. And when they were hatched, they were surrounded by the beauty of these woven baskets. And the weaver birds always understood that the basket-making tradition was a very important one. But sometimes we forget that the weaver birds were also farmers.
feel it's the performer. Thank you so much for me. Thank you. Right. That was wonderful. Now we're going to go back. You have some questions online already. We're just going to take them before we continue our conversation. Let's quickly have these DVDs would also help. The first one is from Abiodun Idowu, and the question goes thus. My question is, in the ever-increasing toxic political and human rhetoric that is being propagated by people like Trump, bad enough, the popular policy in France and Belgium about the return to the good old days, how do we have decent, calm interaction that can yield education outside of ivory towers? So that we can avoid instances like that of Charlie Kirk. Yeah. So that is the first question from Abi Idowu.
Okay, so she wants to know how we can have a.
Okay, sorry.
So she wants to know how we can have interventions outside of academia.
Yes, outside of academia.
I think it's a brilliant question, and this is something I've also been grappling with. Otherwise, what business do I have doing on YouTube? But I actually sat down and realized that the history I knew was not accessible to, people outside of academia, and it was important for me to find ways to put this knowledge. This was not the history I was taught in school. This was history that I happened upon as a result of personal research. But I made a conscious decision to say, look, get it outside of academia, disseminate it in a way that the people who might never ever see the four walls of the university can, access. And honestly, whether we like it or not, the social media is there, and people are using it deliberately. And so we also have to be deliberate in the way we use it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with the comedy, the skits and all of that, but we should know that it has potential for doing a lot more. And we cannot allow just people like Trump or these people we mentioned in France or,
our famous Kelly
to control, the narratives there. Use it. It might not always be easy because nothing is without its politics.
Yeah.
Facebook, YouTube, and all of that. Remember how when the war in Ukraine started and they started clamping down on anybody who was saying anything that was not the authorized narrative of the way they wanted the way they wanted the war to be reported. So it's always there, but we can, I think, and I know more and more our own young people too are coming up with their own platforms and things like that. So let's encourage them, let's just be creative about the way we put out, what we wanted, the kind of entertainment we want, the kind of news we want, the kind of history about us that we want to put out there, because none of it is innocent.
Okay, so I kind of became untraditional when I went online first. I should have given the people the privilege of asking the first question. So I'm throwing it open now. Do you have any question for our author? Otherwise, I'm going to do in the likes of Cora, come to forever, and I'm going to stampede people to ask questions. And I know a very gentleman, people are going to wouldn't want me to stampede him. Neither would Peter, who wouldn't want me to stampede him. But I promised Elijah, your sister, who said, oh, she must ask a question. So, do you have a question? Yeah, please, Mike, what's that?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Zadias. I'm this is so junior question would be, growing up, I used to say, I used to call out people or whatever. If you were not to be doing the writing, what would you have loved to do? I don't know. I've never wanted to do anything else other than write. So I don't know. my life has always been, this has always been my passion. So I can't imagine everything else I've done has been, out of a need. Like I went into education because I saw a need there. And of course, but writing, it's always been my passion. I can't imagine myself doing anything else. When I'm not writing, I actually feel like I'm winding away my life.
All right. Is there anyone? Yeah, please take the mic.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mine is not actually a question. I just want to say something about Mrs. Oyinsan. Actually, I'm not really surprised on seeing what she's doing now because I've known her for a very long time. Her sister-in-law. I remember when she used to leave the luxurious Victoria Island because I used to work in the rural area then. She would leave the luxurious Victoria Island and come down to my remote place where I used to work and hide herself in there to be writing and writing for days and sometimes weeks. So I'm not really, I'm very happy for everything she's doing. Even before Silhouette, as you said, I'm sure there must have been a lot of other books that she wrote because this was far before Silhouette. This is what I'm saying, I think in 1990 or something like that. So, going through that book is very, very interesting. I know there are lots of things that we are going to try and cover history, and I know everyone they are trying to do that. Just I know there are some countries where they try to remove history from the curriculum. I think what they're just trying to do is to try and hide history. But as she said, I think altogether because I think what we dwell so much on talking about problems. So I think the main thing is what can we do actually to look for solution? And that is where, what can we do? How do we get there to really get people to do that? Like even there are some things when we try to think about history, like talking about all the things that are happening. Somebody like me, like when I read a book like that, sometimes I'll be crying because it was very good to me. I'll really be crying and then people just say, see that book you are reading or something else. Because yes, you can relate to some of all these things that happen. Even though we try to shy away and think that it doesn't exist anymore. But we know that it exists wherever we go. So what can we do really to make sure that this history doesn't rewrite and keep on rewriting and writing itself? That's one thing. And then the other thing is that we have people. I remember there was somebody one day, like, I don't see myself as a black woman, and that is the fact. Why I said that? I'm not, but I will tell you what I mean by that. I was at work one day, and then there was on the form when you said, are you white British, or you are black, or whatever, and this man was very, very angry because I asked him if he was a white British. And then he told me, no, I am not white. I am not white. Do you know what is white and black? I am not white. I am a light skin. And I will tell you since that day, I see myself as a dark skinned girl and not a black lady because we all know what is black and what is white. So why do I count myself as a black woman? So this is one of these. I'm not trying to erase this people, I'm just trying to make it history. Thank you very much.
Honestly, whatever makes you comfortable, in describing yourself, but whether you like it or not, race exists. And race is at the heart of the way in which the world is structured. And whether it's like the Americans have gone through various things. At one time they were black, Other times, the African Americans, Afro-Americans, honestly, those are just semantics as far as I'm concerned. I'm more concerned about like I said, the legacies of our history and how we can grapple with them and use what we learn about them to make today livable for us, but also most importantly, ensure we leave the world a better place for future generations. This cannot continue. This idea of a continent being just an extractive source for the rest of the world. How long do we think, our countries, our continents can survive, if we continue to let things go the way they are? So yes, I have no beef, with people who want to grapple with the semantics of it. But my concern, is actually how, we make things work.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
So drawing from your YouTube work, which is basically focused on decolonizing history for us, and your new book as well, kind of seems to be along those lines of maybe not decolonizing history, but maybe just I would say mistakenly decolonizing history, because it's being told from our view, even though it's fictional. My question is, do you think that there's a possibility or there's a way for us to kind of tell these stories and decolonize our mindset that doesn't have to be so traumatic? Just because I've read so many books, because I'm trying to read more books by writers of color, and inevitably we always have to deal with the issue of race and history, and sometimes I'm just like, I don't think I can read another book by another writer of color because it's so depressing sometimes. Do you think that there's a way we can kind of look into the subject still, but less traumatic, or is it just trauma as a part of it?
I honestly don't have an answer, because we're different. Your tolerance, for hardcore, stories might be low, but there are people out there who can deal with it. But honestly, and of course, you can actually say the same thing I'm doing. I'm saying in different ways. This just happens to be my style, what I'm comfortable doing. I'm sure you can have comedians who are able to, in fact, there are shows that have dealt with race issues, on in a light kind of way, but have said, very important things. So just look for what works for you, I guess.
Right. Okay, Peter has a question. Please, do you want to talk? Thank you, Sheila.
Thank you. Against the backdrop, and against the backdrop of, say, for example, Carol's Mr. Johnson, to which actually they replied with things fall apart, and then you want to come today and talk about also telling our stories. And telling our stories can come different ways. Africa has come up with all sorts of musicians reflecting various times. So at the time, radio was the voice of protest. Today, it's Afrobeat, which has come into various subgenres as well. Now you come up with a book that's trying to tell a story. There are also people who have tried to react to this, like you can look at Bobi Wethiongo's The Poor Christ. When of Rape, you can look at Mariama Ba's So on the Letter, and there are many people that have tried to tell a story from a different perspective. Today, when Africa is trying to render its image, and you are trying to show what is probably negative as a way of re-educating the conscience of African leaders and African society, what perspective will you choose when we look at a cultural example that says, if you want to tell an adult that is a fool, you can either look him in the face and tell him he's a fool, or you tell him I said, you know, because I'm smarter than he is.
Whatever works. Maybe you describe my style as looking at the adult in space and telling him he's a fool. I don't know. But I wasn't, it was not one of the things that I was considering when I was writing. For me, it's very important for my writing to be honest, for me to be true to whatever subject I'm dealing with. And leaving the rest to, Okay, my background academically in research, both for my master's and my doctorate, was to look at the ways in which origin, our full body of origin, not just oral tradition in the strict sense of the word, interacts with writing, with filmmaking. And one of the things that I have found, because what I do is to do close readings, do close readings of other writers and filmmakers, and then I look into the areas of their socialization, look for the body of the origin, and see how I'm able to use them to read their works. So some of the things I found in looking at the Yoruba oral culture is that in the strict sense, an artist in the Yoruba tradition does not see his medium as just a tool. The artist engages with the medium, whether you're a sculptor or, in my case, a writer. I use words and all of that. So I use my ashe to interact with my medium, and then I put it out there. Now, my reading of the Yoruba way in which architecture works is that the person who is going to read my work or listen or watch my film and all of that is not an empty bag. It's not a tabula rasa. They come with their own skills and abilities to look at it and interpret it and go away with what they can from it. Even in the retelling of it, I have no authority to control them. You understand? So, like I said, for me, it's important for me to be honest, to put what I need to say in the most honest and most natural way it comes to me. And I hope whoever reads it, and I know whoever reads it, have the power to take from it what works for them, what doesn't.
All right. Thank you so much. We have another one online. Consuela, would you be kind enough to read it?
So this is from James, and they say they really commend the author's approach for telling African stories.
Start again.
Okay, so this is from James, and he says, really commend the author's approach for telling African historical narrative in this form, as most history books are austere and off-putting. Question is, how did the author come to this story? Did she know anyone involved, or was she associated with any organizations that medicated during conflict?
The association that does what?
Medicated?
No, I don't know any of the characters. I mean, they're all fictional characters. But there's no major event in the novel that did not come from, again, going back to the way in which Rachel works, that was not something I heard somewhere, seen on the news, in the newspaper, in the historical books, so you imbibe these things, but in sitting down to craft your characters, all of these things play out. So I don't know any character. I've never met an Emilio Lubo or a Siaka, a Melvin, and so on. I've never met individuals like that. But for instance, Siaka's story comes from my research into the ways into child soldiers. He ended up as child soldiers in Sierra Leone. Timothy's story it comes from news reports as well as research into the Sudanese lost boys. So it's, I don't know, like I never met any of these characters, but they are characters that are inspired by historical occurrences.
So you take your materials from the all around.
Yes.
Okay, just make the whole. Well, now I have a question here. My question. So let's take it back to Africa. I see a lot of intertextuality and inference to the transatlantic slavery, however modern. Are you saying that there is no redemption for the survival of Africa as a continent?
In fact, it is the exact opposite that I am saying. By painting these pictures, by crafting these characters, I don't want to give too much of the end away, but some of them are actually cautionary. Some of the events are cautionary, in the sense that, okay, somebody was talking about France and all of these places, Trump and all of that, and maybe I can say to you, it's like right now, I'm buying Solero. It's not going to continue. This idea of just talking at the point of talking, which we have been doing for God knows how long, and not getting results, it will not continue. We cannot continue to make life intolerable for such a huge percentage of the world's youth. At the expense, we cannot continue and expect that all they are going to do is to, just sit back and take it. Or, we are seeing them making these journeys and things like that. Right now, they are begging. I have a scene there where they are actually begging to be allowed into you. They are begging. It will get to a point where they will invade. If you push people to the wall, if you push them to a point, of course, yes, they will get up. They will get up. So it is hope. In fact, anything but pessimism is what I...
Again, which fuel my question, which is it until our youth get to Europe before they can survive? Why can't they, implode in their own country or places to bring about that change?
Why are you confining them to the world, to just that part of the world where the global economic architecture has kind of imprisoned them? What do you mean imploding their part of the world? What do you mean? A lot of them don't want to come to Europe.
Just like that.
They don't want to. They are being forced to. If they had the opportunity, seriously, why would I be living outside my country? Why? Why would I, at my age, choose, not be able to go back home and live the way my grandparents lived, surrounded by, members of the extended family, one in America, one in Canada, one in Nigeria, one in Australia. It's all messed up. And the fact is, the character in the last chapter of this book's name is Ti Oluwani Jagulabi. It has a meaning. This earth is the Lord's. Those of you who are religious, and the fullness thereof. One section of humanity cannot continue to benefit from it at the expense of the others. And why are we allowing it to happen? They will continue. In fact, right now, they tell us they've so messed up the globe with all this climate thing. They are going to space.
Yeah.
When the repercussions of that start coming, we are going to be made to pay for it. Because right now, nobody is actually trying to say what is it going to cost in, say, 50, 30, years' time. But it is the one world, the resources in this world are not limitless. And they cannot continue to be enjoyed by only a section of the world, or people cannot continue to be kept outside of being able to actualize themselves just because of the accidental geography of the places where they were born or the color of their skin.
Yeah, and well, again, I think you might be right, because that theory is being tested right now as we speak. You know, immigration is always a problem here, and a point of campaign for political leaders, even in America and the rest of that. But you see, every day people are crossing the what that channel, the English channel. Thank you, English channel. Although some of them were drowned, but they are still coming. That doesn't deter them. And you just said now that somebody is begging for them to come or something.
There are people, oh no, what do you think makes people risk their lives to cross these channels? What do you think? You think anybody who had the ability...
Economic migration.
So, what is responsible for the economic problems that is making them desperate to leave their own land?
Are you blaming it on the West?
I am blaming it on the warped global economic architecture that is structured in such a way that only a segment of this world can benefit from it. Name it IMF, World Bank, WTO. These are all instruments, you know, not to help us develop as we have often been told, but to keep us contained, so that our resources can continue to be extracted to service parts of the world where they lack the resources.
Yeah, I hear your argument, but I'm also saying that, you know, perhaps your theory is being tested, and you remember what happened in Nepal, where the youth, you know, they brought about a change of government and stuff. It nearly happened in Nigeria, but, you know, they had a mechanism to just quell it. And I don't know for how long that is going to happen. But so this is what I'm talking about, the implosion. Instead of coming all the way to Europe and then crossing the English Channel, why can't that happen at the home front? And then we can also deconstruct the instrument, the IMF and whatever, those instruments you mentioned that are, you know, keeping Africans oppressed and the rest. So, I mean, once the youth, all right, takes charge of the narrative, then we can begin to feel this change. Why aren't I mean, I don't know whether that is one, it's a reference in your book to say that, okay, they are going back home, you know, as volunteers, and then they are faced with this violence as well. But did that do anything for them when they went back?
But you know, I must challenge this your assumption that migration is bad. How did America become populated, or Australia, or Canada? Migration has always been an instrument for growth. Even in Africa, you had the Bantu explosion. It is as old as human beings have been on this earth. How come life started in Africa and spread to other parts of the world? It is now being used as an instrument to contain, and an instrument for containment. I don't buy into this debate that migration is bad. It is only bad, as far from where I'm sitting, because it's dangerous for these people. They have the right to decide to live anywhere in the world. And if you are making their homes impossible for them to live in, because maybe is it the government that is not being interfered with? Is it the multinationals that are getting tax havens that are impoverishing us? You know, is it our politicians who are colluding, you know, putting money in banks that are going to just keep quiet about it because they're going to use all that money? So seriously, why do you blame a normal human being who wakes up and looks at his environment and says, oh my God, what's my tomorrow going to be like? And they cannot see it.
Yeah.
It cannot go on forever.
Well, yeah, I mean, you, like I said, you're right, and I just wonder how long that's going to take, because once the places where they want to migrate to, once they are contended with, oh, okay, we have used them to develop our place, then please, we don't need you anymore. The same thing is happening within African countries. Look at South Africa there, where Nigeria